We just got back from PAX East 2016, where I saw one of the coolest games I've seen in quite a while, and that was Mages of Mystralia. It's a bit out in terms of release date, but pretty darn cool and worth looking at. This game has a unique art style, but it is definitely very heavily inspired by Wind Waker. In terms of mechanics, it takes a little bit of the wizard mage element, where you mix and match different elements of the world: fire, ice, water, what have you, and create spells. But it's not like Magicka, where it's just total chaos. There's actually somewhat of an intellectual object to this spell creation as well, and we'll get to that in a moment. All of this PAX East 2016 coverage is brought to you by CyberPower PC, who were awarded PC Magazine's Reader's Choice Award for Best Gaming Desktop. So that stated, Mages of Mystralia has some pretty cool mechanics that I want to open with, and the main one is the creation of spells. Spells consist of a few different components. One is the element, that would be the element of the world. As I said, fire, ice, water, things like that. And then the next one is behavior, and these are controlled by runes. So there's different behaviors that a spell can have. And as an example, those might be movement. So you maybe create an orb of fire, for instance, and then you apply something to that orb of fire, like moving forward. Very simple, right? So you've just created a fireball. That's what you've done. But here's the cool part. These are used not just for combat, but also for puzzle solving within the game, and that is where some of the Legend of Zelda influence comes in for the Borealis team making the game. As an example, there were torches that you could light in Zelda. These were pretty key, but basic puzzles to solve. In Mages of Mystralia, they still have torch puzzles, almost as a callback to Zelda and homage, but the way they light here is a bit more unique. Say there's a torch to open a gate. You can't get to the torch physically. There's some kind of object blocking your physical path, and you've got to get a spell over there to light the torch. If it's not a straight shot, one thing that's pretty cool that can be done is within the spell creation system, the spell book effectively, you can apply runes where the fireball will go straight and then take a left turn or a right turn, go around a corner, go around the object. Maybe it's more complex and it has to turn back and go straight again, but that can be done with the runes within the game. So there are 30 different behaviors that can be applied to the spells, and then a couple of core elements. The behaviors offer things other than movement. You can do all kinds of area of effect, impact type stuff, send things flying. Homing runes are another one. There are augments as well, so instead of adding just a behavior like moving or homing, you can modify an existing one, and that would be where instead of moving forward, you might append an augment to tell it to move faster or in an arc or randomize its movement. For example, if you wanted to create a lightning spell that arced from one enemy to the other, you might do some kind of random movement to just create a massive chaotic area of effect type of spell. In terms of story is pretty critical here. So the mage element is explained. That's the core heart of the game, and they actually designed this spell crafting system before even starting with the story. So they worked on it, they created a system, and then they said, what type of game do we want to make to match this to? And that's when the Borealis team, Borealis Games, contacted Ed Greenwood, whom some of you may know for his work on Forgotten Realms, certainly a very well-known book series and D&D series. So Forgotten Realms was created by Ed Greenwood. He has agreed to write the story for Mystralia, and as I understand it, he's even gone a bit above and beyond and has written the basis of sequels for them if this game happens to succeed. But that's, of course, looking very far in the future. So Ed Greenwood is on board for the story. He is writing the backstory for the characters, for the world. He's writing some of the quests, some of the dialogue, all of this stuff. And within the game, the story we didn't learn a whole lot about, but one thing I do know is there's the sort of standard fare of towns and villages you can visit, and this was pretty important to me. They don't have just normal quest givers, so these hubs don't function like something where someone's got an exclamation point above their head. You feel compelled to gather that quest and complete it even if you don't want to. That doesn't exist here. Instead, the NPCs just kind of talk casually with you, and if they happen to have a quote-unquote quest, we'll call it just for ease, they might drop a very obvious hint. For example, man, I really wish I didn't leave my pitchfork in those woods over there. So that's a pretty obvious, hey, you can go grab this guy's pitchfork and bring it back to him. Maybe he'll give you something. But the idea that Borealis had was to offer some sort of side quest without sort of making the player feel as if they have to completely sideline their gameplay and deviate from what they actually were doing originally before getting interrupted with a side quest that may actually be useless in the scheme of things. So that's a pretty good design approach to a game. I think I'm not a big fan of these quest hubs and these things that MMOs have gone a bit crazy with these days. So I do like hearing that. The art style has a really nice sort of pastel finish to it. It's not very strong. It's not cartoony and cel shaded, and it's generally unoffensive. We'll put it that way en masse, but I certainly did like it myself. So art's looking good. The city and design looks good. The story is sort of the one thing where I feel confident that it will actually come through pretty well, almost no matter what, because Ed Greenwood, of course, he can write bad things. Anyone can. But it sounds like they're in good shape right now. So Mages of Mystralia, they're looking at about 15 hours of gameplay. They do internal speedruns by the developers. The fastest anyone's completed it is 5 hours, no side quests, no dawdling about. And this is after 1 year of development. They have 1 more year left of development. No release dates because they're an indie game. They don't really want to give a date and then get crushed by, Dragon Age or something like that. So game's expected to launch in about a year, quite a ways out. Look into Borealis Games. They are the developers. Ed Greenwood, if you're interested in his writing. And then Mages of Mystralia is the game. Of course, as this game nears some level of completion or beta or whatever, we will post content on it. So before any pre-purchasing, things like that, do check our content, see if you think you'd actually like it. But I wanted to bring everyone's attention to this one because I do think it actually looks pretty darn fun. So that is Mages of Mystralia. Thank you for watching. Patreon link in the post video if you want to help us out directly. You can hit the links in the description below for more information, and I'll see you all next time.